Hello everybody, my name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. Just want to preface before I get to the actual footage that this is a recording of a live stream that I did last night, and also explain a little bit about what the tiers are supposed to be. So first off, with S tier, for a Warframe to be S tier, as you will hear me reiterate throughout the video, they need to make playing other Warframes a bad idea. This does not mean that any Warframe that is not in S tier is not good. You will see that there are many frames that people regard as being really good, not in S tier, but to be S tier, you need to make it so that playing other frames is a bad idea for that mission or multiple missions. A plus tier is typically where frames sit if they just happen to be very, very good, but obviously do not make the bar for S tier. And then A tier below that is again the same thing. B tier is frames that work but could use a buff in some areas. C tier frames are typically the ones that could use a touch up on a few of their abilities, but mainly do work. D tier is for frames that are just terrible, and then F tier is for, well, you'll see. But without further ado, let's get on to what I believe is the de facto best, quote unquote, 2023 Warframe tier list. Okay. So Ashe is very interesting. Now, I'm going to be taking a few things into account when doing this tier list. There's going to be one, the viability of the frame across the entire game. Now, there are certain exceptions to that rule where it'll be like, all right, well, this frame is just so good at this one particular thing that it just bumps them up a tier. But see, Ashe is a good frame with just this ability, to be honest. Like, pretty much just this ability. Bladestorm is awesome. And this is not talking augments, we'll talk augments in a second. Bladestorm is fantastic. Bladestorm is really good. It is the basis of pretty much all Ashe builds besides Fatal Teleport marked for death setups, which got nuked anyways, so they're really not great. The Ashe is slow. Ashe is just really slow. Ashe's armor strip on Shuriken is like, you get two. So you get two armor strips. Okay. What is this doing that some abilities right now don't do? Because something like Tharos Strike works on Acolytes, works on Demolists, is a considerably better ability because it strips way more than just two enemies. This is one of the most, like, completely obsolete abilities by just the armor strip changes. Terrify, in terms of just being able to mass armor strip, completely outclasses every ability in the entire game in terms of range and shield gating and just being able to go through walls and not needing a shit ton of power strength. Smokescreen could actually be a decent ability with the augment. It's just the duration. It's what? I think it's 8 seconds at base, but Smokescreen has terrible duration, and it needs to affect your allies without the augment, and the augment should be either boosted. Is the augment flat? Is it flat or is it percent? Because if it's percent, then meh. So Smokescreen nuked by the duration. Teleport is really cool. You just need to be able to just use it wherever. Like, you literally just need to be able to use it wherever. You shouldn't need to have to use this on enemies, because if you could just use this whenever, it would make it a really great movement tool and would really play into his ninja kit. Arcane Trickery over Smokescreen, I'd talk about that in the video. It's, yeah, seriously. And then Bladestorm. Bladestorm is fantastic. A quality of life for Bladestorm would be to press 2 and every enemy in your sight gets marked. I could appreciate that. I know that there would be some weird, oh, maybe you mark like a ton of enemies, but like, you really, on what tiles can you see like that many enemies? It really should just be that you just like click and mark everything, so that you don't need to manually mark all of them, because it's really annoying. It's why I say that Ashe is so slow, because Ashe is so slow. I use Silence plus Augment. Yeah, that's what I use in the video. Overall, I think Ashe is in a good spot. It's just, he's slow, and his first 3 abilities need to be tuned up to the current meta. He's being hard carried by how good and honestly how fun Bladestorm is to use. But besides that, I give Ash a B. We have Atlas. So Atlas is an interesting frame because they're one of the frames that has an ability that is governed by a stat stick. And stat sticks are something that I don't like, but I also don't want DE to remove because then it would completely negate Rivens for stat sticks, and I would be mad about that, but that's a whole different conversation. Atlas is in a bit of a weird spot where he is kind of like Khora Light, because they're both frames with stat sticks that have looting abilities, that being with Orgaze and Khora Strangledome, except besides Atlas's first being really good because it makes you invulnerable and, you know, you can hit some crazy numbers with it, and Petrify with the, I think it's the scanning augment and also just for extra loot being alright. Tectonics is a terrible ability. His Rumblers are horrible. So, I think Atlas is in a spot where you really only use Atlas if you like him. He's not bad, but I don't think that, like, and this actually might be something for Ashe that I should have said recently. You know what Ashe does really well? Ashe is fantastic at level cap because of how high his Blade Storm's true damage scales. It's kind of the only place where I can really recommend Ashe for level cap. Atlas doesn't have, like, a niche. Like, Ashe is a fantastic level cap frame. Like, anything that Atlas does, I would just say play Khora. Like, okay, you're playing him for loot, play Khora. Or Nekros. You're playing him because, like, you really only play him because you like to punch shit. That's literally only it. And his passive is prime sure-footed, but only on the ground. He's alright. He could use a buff, though. His Rumblers could outright be swapped for a different ability, or they need to do something useful. Giving Atlas a C. I just don't think that he's in a very good spot. Because in terms of fun factor, you just mash 1, and you don't even, it's not even anything like Khora where you just get these massive red crit numbers, and you're also, you know, you have Ensnare, which is a fantastic ability. Baruuk exists? Yeah, Baruuk is literally just Atlas, except, like, cool. And he can't get extra loot, but Atlas's extra loot is annoying to proc. Alright. So, Banshee is another frame that is really, really gimped by the fact that 2 of her abilities are just really not great, especially Soundquake, and the fact that she is literally, like, you need to build her for shield gating. Like, you need to. She does not work without it, which limits you in what options you can use for helmet abilities, because most of the time you need to play something you can spam so that you can shield gate with it. Sonic Boom, I know this has an augment for armor stripping. I don't know if it's good, but Sonar is really used for crazy damage numbers and for, like, one-shotting liches and stuff, and for that, she's really good. I can recommend her as a good lich hunter or something, but the issue is that for general play, you don't need the crazy numbers that Sonar can give you, because you just one-shot everything in general. Like, you literally, like, you don't, this is a damage multiplier that is just not needed. For lich hunting, sure, I could recommend Banshee. Sonic Boom augment, just like Stynex armor strip. Yeah. I don't know. Silence is great. There's not much I could say about Silence. It's fantastic. It's just a problem. The problem with Silence on Banshee is that it is literally a better ability on other frames. And that'll go for some other frames' helmet abilities. It is a better ability on other frames, and I also just think that Banshee is not fun to play because of how much of a glass cannon she is. She can output so much damage through Sonar. So much damage that it's just not necessary if you're building your weapons right. But she dies so quickly without shield gating. And Soundquake is awful. Like, Soundquake is awful. the thing about damage buffs like Sonar, ones that you need to like consistently proc onto new groups of enemies, is that they're really like not needed. Damage buffs like Roar and other things that are just always active, even if they're not needed, they just help. But something like this, you're taking a longer amount of time to just proc it and then shoot instead of just shoot. Silence ability helps only on level up. Nah, Silence is a fantastic ability, just in general. So, I don't like saying this, but Banshee is a Helminth frame. I find that her niche at being able to kill bosses with Sonar really quickly is just not good enough to put her at anything higher than C. She's not D tier. And the reason I'm saying she's not D tier is because of the other frames that go here. And I might actually need to add a tier later for you guys can guess who. Baruuk is a monster. Baruuk is amazing. I love Baruuk. I have a Umbral Forma in him. Woo! Absolutely fantastic. Elude is actually pure invulnerability, but just not good for him, and in general how Warframe plays. So it makes for a fantastic Helminth slot, which is great, because his other three abilities, especially these two, are awesome. Lull is a crowd control ability that gets gimped purely because his other two abilities are just so good. Purely because his other two abilities are so good. Other frames don't use this as crowd control because it's a little weird. It's not a bad ability. It's just the way that Baruuk likes to be played, which is spam this ability so you can get as low restraint as possible, means that you want to gimp the crowd control this ability provides. Desolate Hands, 90% DR, and give other allies DR. Crazy. Also disarm enemies. Really not that important when you just proc his 4 and absolutely nuke everything. Baruuk is crazy. Serene Storm. Oh my god. Seriously. Oh my god. You put a Helminth like Warcry, which is my personal favorite on him, because he does so much damage that the only limit to his kills is attack speed. Jesus. He's also about as invincible as you can get without being Revenant. 50% DR. 90% DR. Another, what is this? 40% at rank 3? Nourish works here, I just don't use it on him because it's boring. And then Adaptation gives you another 90% DR. Hey, and he's so fun. The one issue that Baruuk has is that he just doesn't work for pretty much anything besides survival. He is so strong that there are not enough enemies for him to work in anything but survival, which is his detriment. So, even with that though, off of pure fun and actual strength, I do give him an A. But I really just wish that they made it so that if you didn't have lowered restraint, this just costed energy or something. Or it had half damage, because half damage would still one-shot enemies. But regardless, Baruuk, absolute monster. Citrine is an interesting frame, because other than the fact that she's the newest one, as I'm sure you can all guess, she is instantly competing against the support to end all supports, Wisp. I think that she is, of all of the frames that we got in the past year, starting with, maybe not Gyre now. I think Citrine is in the best, like, she launched in the best spot. Fractured Blast is great. It's just awesome. You can throw this, you can make her run 45 efficiency, and that's actually good for this, because Blind Rage is great on her. More strength gives you a higher chance for more health orb drops, which means with Equilibrium, infinite energy, even though they cost more. She's got health regen, which is something not a lot of frames have. And she also gives allies health regen. So, like, Preserving Shell. On kill, you get up to 90... What is it? Is it 95? No, it's only 90%, right? I think it's only 90. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Regardless, you get a stupid high DR number that also goes to your teammates, which is great. Prismatic Gem, this ability is, it's 90, okay. This ability, I think, could use, I know that they increase the amount of enemies that it can target, which is nice. I think that it should just be able to target multiple enemies at once. It should be a really, really fast status spreader and not like a, because it was relatively slow last time I used it, and I know it's a little faster now, but this one is good. The status chance and duration increases are nice, especially the chance. The status chance increases when using something like the Phantasma or the Latrin, which armor strips on puncture proc. Crazy. Her fourth, crazy damage. It's just slow. It's just really slow. But what's nice about her is that she is one of the very few frames that can afford to run 45 efficiency and have no energy issues, which makes her fourth a really, really good slot for Pillage. Because Pillage loves, like, the full strip one cast Pillage is the most broken ability in the game, because it grants you shield gating and status cleanse, and you can support that on her, because 45 efficiency is not a problem. So, I think I'm pretty comfortable in giving Citrine an A. I think she's in a good spot. Her 4 is a good slot for helmet abilities that like power strength, because she can run 400 or 328 very easily. So I give her an A. She's a great support, and she can do a shit ton of damage. Nourish makes 45 efficiency on most frames possible. That is true, but if you're subsuming Nourish onto a frame, you can't then also subsume a 400% strength strip like Pillage or whatever. Chroma's a disappointing frame, because he's got some really, really clear issues that, honestly, I know that they're not quote-unquote easy to fix, but if they were fixed, it would really, really help with him. Starting off with his first, this ability sucks. Like, it's terrible. What Chroma should do, at least what Spectral Scream should do, is it should imbue your weapons with the type of damage that you have equipped. And it should be a stupid high buff. Like, you know how there are the augments for Volt's Shock and stuff like that, and Oberon's Smite that give you 300% radiation or electricity damage? That should be what this ability does. And then, if not, make it so that while you have it active, it's like just having a Nourish effect on you, where when enemies shoot you, you will send out a wave of toxin, electricity, cold, heat damage. I know that that really won't be that good, but it's better than... Oh my god. Spectral Stream sucks. This ability, that you can't even read this one, Elemental Ward. The thing about this is that none of these buffs are like that crazy. Okay, so it's a dragon that can't breathe fire is no dragon at all. I mean, I guess, but this ability fucking sucks. And they're not gonna just make it this nuke. Works with old mechanics. Yeah, Chroma's old. It just seems to be updated. It literally seems to be updated. Elemental Ward is outdated, and having these 4 different buffs, like, it should be consolidated. I think swap abilities are so old. What's a frame that has good swap abilities? Everything Ward can do, Wisp 1 does 20 times better. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Vex Armor. Hey, look. Vex Armor used to be great. Vex Armor used to be great. Not anymore. Right now, it's not. And that's kind of all I have to say about this one. Vex Armor also is additive with damage sources like Serration. So, this really isn't giving you that much extra damage. If it was multiplicative, like Eclipse, then it'd be better, but no, just not great. But then we come to Effigy. Effigy sucks, but it gives Chroma his only use. His only use. And that is for Profit Taker. Chroma has absolutely no place in the game besides for one thing. And he is the only frame that can do that one thing. And it really doesn't make any sense why he has a credit multiplier on this ability, but he does. And the Lost is the best. Yeah, the Lost is not bad. That is the best cycle ability. Vauban's cycles aren't too bad. Vauban's cycles are just meh. I don't think any of them are that great besides the... Why did... Effigy... literally, just the credit multiplier line puts Chroma into C. He is a D tier Warframe that, like I said before, there are some exceptions where if a frame does one thing very, very well, which is farm Profit Taker, they'll get up a tier. Besides that, Chroma sucks. And it's unfortunate, because I think Chroma Prime at least looks really cool. But next up we have Caliban. Okay. So, Caliban... Alright, passive, you get 50% DR. What's very, very odd about the passive DR that this gets is that I'm pretty sure that this DR does not stack with adaptation, and the game just calculates whichever bonus is higher and then uses that one, which is really dumb. Which is really dumb. Regardless, though, Razor Gyre is horrible. They actually turned the Sentient Spin into an ability, and it is just as bad on Caliban as it is on the Conquilists. Sentient Wrath. This ability, It's his helmet, okay. It's his helmet, it's just that it doesn't do anything that, any frame really needs, because damage vulnerability, if you want damage vulnerability for some reason, just use Rest and Rage, and boom, you've got really, really good damage vulnerability. Especially with the augment. This has a very, very niche use with Zephyr and her augment for tornadoes, allowing them to still be picked up, but that's not necessary, it's just cool. Meh. The Conquilists, one, have some of the worst AI in the entire game. They are legitimately so stupid. So stupid. And also, the shields that they give Caliban. You need to have shields for them to give you shields. Which means that these don't even help you shield gate, because if you have 0 shields, they won't give you shields until you start regenerating your own shields. Then they'll give you them. Just, dumb. Fusion Strike is good. Fusion Strike is really cool and good. It's just, it's on this frame with these other abilities. Thank you, Bubbo. Fusion Strike a bit slow. Fusion Strike is a bit slow. I think it's good, though. It's just, here's the thing. Fusion Strike should be his second. Fusion Strike should straight up be his second. Fusion Strike should have been Helminth. I think that it should be his second. I think that Sentient Wrath with some big buffs could become either his first or his third, and then he needs 2 brand new abilities. This will never be good. Razor Gyre will never be good. This has potential to become his first ability and not change if they just allowed it to shield gate. Caliban's Conquilists have some of the worst AI in the game. So bad that I have to give him a D. He just doesn't do anything that you want. Ember is good. I think Ember's in a good spot. And what was the rating for Citrine? Citrine, I gave an A. I gave Citrine an A. So her passive, 5% ability strength for every enemy with a heat proc is pretty good. It's just that conditional strength bonuses you cannot rely on, because if you happen to not have how much strength you are wanting from this ability and you need it to do something, you're going to be very disappointed when it doesn't. So I kind of view this 5% as more of a just an like bonus damage on all your stuff than use this to build for stuff, because it's just inconsistent, because conditional buffs are just annoying. Ones that you cannot guarantee, at least. Fireball, this ability sucks. This is her helmet slot, but that's not bad because she doesn't have multiple helmet slots. So having just one is actually good, because there are some helmet abilities that really help her. Immolation is annoying because of how its DR scales, and just, I don't know, I think it's not like terribly bad, but it's just annoying sometimes. Fire Blast is actually pretty good. The only thing this ability needs to do is full strip in one cast, at least. Because for some reason, it's her helmet. And I mean full strip when in helmet. It's just like the fact that the armor strip off of this scales off of Immolation is annoying. There are some very interesting heat inherit builds where you can kill with just this ability. But, unfortunately, again, relying on something which is not a guarantee like Immolation, because if you let Immolation stay at the top, you will drain energy so fast. And then in Inferno, it's funny, Ember has like one really clear use, which is Sanctuary Onslaught nuking. Yet you cannot spam your fourth in Sanctuary Onslaught. So she is shit there. And, I mean, combined up with Fire Blast's armor strip and just like damage and maybe viral and heat inherit stuff, she can nuke. Nourish on Ember to help with energy. That's what I have a build for her on. That's what, if I were to make an Ember video, it would be on. I give Ember a B, though. For those of you who know, Equinox is like my frame, okay? Equinox is a really, really cool frame and has probably one of the best builds in the entire game. Equinox and Maim and Terrify is so stupidly OP. Like, so stupidly OP. It's just conceptually, she is fantastic. Gameplay-wise and execution, really nothing special. Like, really nothing special. Because building for night form and building for day form are inverse on each other, mainly. And also, you can't really reap especially with Pacify and Provoke. For whatever reason, this ability doesn't stay active when you switch forms and just go over to the other form. If an Equinox rework were to exist, just a unification of both of her forms would be the first thing I could do. Her abilities are good. Rest is great crowd control. Rage is a good damage multiplier. Pacify, giving enemies a damage multiplier, but like lowering the damage they do, is actually pretty cool. And you can get some really, really high levels of tank. Is this going to be a video? Yeah, this will be a video. But if you could just... Yeah, yep, you literally said it. If you could mod both forms separately, oh my god. And then this. Mend and Maim, I have a very, very memey build with Mend, where you can shield gate fully on a single kill, which practically makes her invincible. But there's a disconnect in playing both forms, which is oddly why most people subsume off her 1 to completely invest in one form. Because both Warframes here are actually really good. Like Day form is an absolute monster when paired with an armor strip, namely Terrify. Go watch my Equinox video if you haven't seen it yet. It's absolutely nasty. Her passive sucks though. This isn't useful. 10%, not useful. This should just be Equilibrium. Old passive. I like Equinox. Like, I really, really like Equinox. She is my favorite, even though I do not play her anymore. She is my favorite. But I can't really, when looking at this list, I don't know, man. I mean, I really would like her to go into A. I'm going to put her in A. I think she has issues, but I think her issues are not a lack of being good. I think Equinox's issues are a lack of consistency with her theme that make her annoying to play. Subsume off her 1 for Gloom, Night form becomes unkillable. Subsume off her 1 for Terrify, Day form becomes probably one of the best, if not the best nuke in the entire game. It's just, the problem is that you're subsuming off her, like, her ability. Like, the reason that she is the frame that she is. 2 switch frames. So, I gave her an A, but she's got some really, really annoying issues that aren't in terms of her, whether she's good or not. It's just how she's played. Next up, we have Excalibur. Okay, so Excalibur is literally the poster boy of Warframe. I think Excalibur is a perfect Warframe in that his abilities are flashy. His 4th is awesome. His 4th will carry a new player through the entire star chart, and it is really fun and dope as fuck to use, okay? But in terms of late game, like Steel Path stuff, he's fine. He's not bad. He's not like insane. Equinox is both he and she. Equinox is actually just a girl. Like Equinox is literally just a girl. But like Equinox, Excalibur is just a Warframe. About as Warframe as they get. Flashy abilities, like, you know, decent, not like fantastic though. Corona? No, I just don't talk for 45 minutes in a row normally. Radio Blind is good CC. It's just CC that's not needed for anything that a player using Excalibur really would do. Radio Javelin is cool now that they uncapped it. It's really, really good with the augment. And Exalted Blade is the reason you play Excalibur. And for that, like, Exalted Blade is fun to use. Exalted Blade is really, really fun to use. I enjoy using Excalibur purely because of how cool Exalted Blade is. Especially now that it's moddable. I don't know, it's been moddable for a while, but back when I used to play, you couldn't. So, and his passive is whatever, 10% for attack speed and damage is meh. B tier. Good, but doesn't excel. Still prefers Zada over his normal 3. I use Zada's on him too. B tier though. Like, he's fine, but he's nothing special. Umbra's cool though. Umbra's really cool. Okay. Frost. Frost is an example of just outdated, old. Kai's dying. Yeah, my throat feels like it is. Nobody take that out of context. Frost is like D. No. You know, to start off with it, Frost is a C tier. Avalanche with the augment, really great. Damn, what was that pronunciation? Really great. Snow Globe paired up with Ensnare over his first is a really, really odd nuke, but yeah, it actually works. I want to make a YouTube short on it. I should. Ice Wave is an ability, and then Freeze is not good. This ability fucking sucks. What is this passive? This passive sucks too. Free cold buff is pretty good. Yeah, I guess. He's just, oh my god. The existence of Gara just makes Frosty useless though. What he is made to do, which is defense, Gara just oh my god. And Gara is a good frame outside of defense. It's just for defense, she completely makes him obsolete. So, Frost gets a C. Above Chroma, though, because Chroma is going to be, like, here. Coincidentally, actually, Gara, Shattered Lash, Exalted Ability. With a crit setup, this ability can completely decimate. This ability, fantastic. Specifically the Slash version. The Puncture version, single target, who cares? Nobody does. For 2, Splinter Storm. What a lot of people don't realize is that this is DR for Gara, but it also applies damage multipliers on enemies. It also provides this DR to literally everything in the game. Like, literally just everything in the game. And with the augment, you can spread this damage multiplier to lots of enemies. If you haven't seen my Gara video, I go recommend you watch it. It's one of my favorite videos that I've ever made, purely in terms of how many synergies there are to give you crazy stupid amounts of damage. Spectre Rage is actually her helmet slot, because this ability is just better on other frames. And that's all that I can really say about it. Gara has a difficult energy economy, and this would help with it with the energy augment, but I actually think that using Nourish here is a better option. So this is a really, really fantastic ability for just other frames, but Nourish is just so much better. And then Mass Vitrify. What ties her whole kit together gives you infinite duration, shattering this with Shattered Lash, shit ton of damage, just so much damage. And then I talk about how when you break this, you add damage to Splinter Storm, and you can just walk around with an infinitely stacking at, like, you know, a decent amount of range, just one shot. Like, you could just walk around with 1 million damage floating around you. And then, I know that's not a lot relative to what you can do with her, but that can be 100 million. So, you know, you spend an hour in Steel Path just playing, and then, oh, you have 90 million damage, and you just walk by enemies and you one-shot them. She is absolutely insane. She's crazy. And here's the thing. I believe that Gara is better than both of these frames, than the 3 of these frames. So this will be A+, because I don't think she's S. She doesn't. There are maybe like 2-3 frames on this list that are going to get S. 2 or 3. Pillage Gara, enemies explode. I don't think that that's needed. But she's not easy enough for S. That is true. All right, next up we have Garuda. Garuda is actually making a separate tier for Gara's crazy. just A+. There are other frames that will get an A+. Definitely. She's just the first one we've covered. So, Garuda is actually really, really damn good. Is she still slept on? Like, would you guys still consider Garuda to be underrated? Because she is fantastic. Gloom Garuda is one of the, like, is a nasty, nasty ass build. And she has, like, 20 builds. She works with so much. Blood Altar sucks, so it's her subsume. Dread Mirror gives you Prime Sure-Footed. Also, gives you a stupid, crazy nuke that not a lot of people really use because it's not that needed. Bloodletting is just infinite energy with status cleanse. And yeah, we talk about how she just gets a 100% innate damage bonus, and she gets to use her talons as a melee, which is not only dope as fuck, but they're also really good because they're insane stats and so heavily slash weighted. Seeking Talons is nasty. Not only for some reason is this ability able to proc status effects like viral when you have something like Nourish on, like it just procs it itself. It also makes it so that every enemy that's under its effects that you shoot, whatever you do to them, every single damage tick you hit them with also does a slash proc. Like, she is nasty. She is super good. Good enough that I actually think she belongs in A+. You actually get to use the claw stances. Yeah. She is, and she has some really good augments, like the augment to auto reload on her third. Run that with a Kuvazar. I think it's like 185 kpm. Garuda's in A+. Too much setup. I don't think she has a lot of setup. I just, like I said, she doesn't make other frames, like she doesn't trivialize. Well, trivialize, yes, but she doesn't make it so that playing another frame is objectively a bad idea, which is what other frames do. Next up though, we got Gauss. Gauss is a frame that I'm very excited for his prime, not only because do I love playing him, but Gauss is one of the very few frames in this game, Invalidate, yes, that's what the word is, that can just become 100% invulnerable through kinetic plating to pretty much everything. Gauss is Revenant, except way more fun. Like, Gauss, yo, there is something about all the frames that have G's in their name all being really fucking good. Gara, Garuda, Gauss, Grendel, Gyre are all really good. Of all of them, though, Gauss, whoa, Mach Rush is super fun. In terms of actual gameplay use, not much. But then you throw in the augment, one of the best grouping abilities in the entire game. Kinetic plating gives you energy conversion, damage reduction. And can we talk about the synergies that his entire kit has with when Redline is active? Best and most fun in Warframe? Most fun frame, in my opinion. I play Gauss all the time. You get, like, the whole battery charge mechanic and like, oh my god. Thermal Sunder. Not only is this a fantastic helmet ability, but when on Gauss, you can just full strip one-shot entire groups of enemies. Gauss is just fantastic. Redline is amazing. The thing about Gauss, though, is that he's really good, but he doesn't make playing other frames like a bad idea. Like, he doesn't. And when we get to our first S tier frame, I'll really explain it. But, you know, A+, easy. Easy A+. Grendel, up next. Grendel went from 0 to fucking hero, because wow, was Grendel terrible, and the rework made him not only really good, but also gave him the best helmet ability in the entire game, and it's even better on him. Nourish is so absolutely insane, and it is even better on Grendel because it just gives every enemy around him 10 viral stacks for fucking shooting him. Feast. Just eat enemies and then use Pulverize and Regurgitate and Nourish to just kill everything. And he is also, coincidentally, super easy to shield gate with, because with the Decay Key, he has like 7 shields. So, Grendel is really good. He's just so good. Both Pulverize and Regurgitate Armor Strip. It's crazy. And he's really fun. Pulverize is super, super cool. The fact that you can use all of his abilities while in it too. And yeah, and he oohs on Nourish cast. Seriously, what else could you ask for? So, personally, Grendel's an A+. Not an S. He doesn't make playing other frames a bad idea. But an easy A+. So, next up, we actually have Gyre. Gyre is a frame that I think is so fun. So fun. But needs her new augment to function. Gyre is not fun to play without her augment. With her augment, absolute blast. Literal absolute blast. Gyre, the augment, and pillage. Yep, you just said it, CJ. Literally one of my favorite builds, and it's also literally also one of the best frames for circuit. She is super good. Abilities that grant crit chance, not very common. And this one you never need to recast if you're playing right. And with her augment, never need to recast this either. You run an armor strip and then something like the Epitaph with electricity modded onto it and viral, and you just sprint around, you cast pillage, you spam everything with your Epitaph, and you just get these massive red crits on these enemies with these huge electricity procs, and just nuke everything. She is so much fun. And yeah, it's just unfortunate. The problem with Gyre is that she doesn't do anything besides that, though. The thing about and this isn't like a bad thing. It's just, in terms of frames that kill like really, really massive groups, like Gyre does very, very quickly, is that there always comes the term of optimization, where, okay, well, if you can do this, people are always going to find the best way to do it. And I think the direct competition for a frame like Gyre is a frame that can do all of what she does quicker and also with loot. We'll talk about that later. But I think she's an easy A. I think she's an A. I don't think she's better than any of these frames because, like, these frames all excel in every single area, and Gyre's not the best for something like Exterminate or Capture or anything like that. And I think that all of these frames can do all of that stuff very well. Of all of them, Gara might seem the least out of here, but that's because, like I said before, she excels really, really well in one space, which is 2 spaces actually, which is defense and survival. And the reason Chroma's not in D tier is because he excels really, really well at Profit Taker. So, easy A. Speed up the video, bro. This will be a YouTube video. So if you just want to stop by tomorrow when I upload this, timestamps will be in the description. We got next Harrow? Okay. Harrow is an interesting... wow. Harrow is in an interesting spot. Because he's played out as a support frame, but is a support frame that just wants to be the only frame doing anything in the squad. I mainly say that because Thurable doesn't, like, your allies get kills and it doesn't do anything for them. You need to get the kills, but if you're playing with a Saren or a Vault or any like nuke frame, this won't do anything. Because they'll be killing everything before you can. Because Harrow is a glorified weapons platform frame. Covenant is cool. I honestly find that the invulnerability it provides to be more useful than the crit chance. Penance is actually really good. And then Condemn is a good helmet. I think that Condemn is completely overshadowed by Pillage. I don't really see a reason to use Condemn when you can also use Pillage. I just don't. And, you know, the argument of once instant is just double tap your Pillage key. So, Harrow's like, he's good. He's not amazing. His issue's trying to be a support with wanting all the DPS. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Trying to be a support through Penance and Thurible. But then this ability is purely about him being able to kill. Love Harrow, but Citrine is a... Yeah, Citrine is a better support and DPS than Harrow is. Why didn't I put Baruuk in S tier? Because Baruuk's not S tier. An S tier frame is a frame that makes other frames not worth playing. Baruuk doesn't do that. And neither does Harrow. I also just think that... I think Harrow's A. I think he's a very low A. I think he's about as low of an A as you can possibly be. I think he's better than these frames. Do I actually? Nah. I think he's a B. I think he's a high B. Baruuk is the only frame that can one-shot Acolytes. I mean... I don't... Not really, but... Baruuk is not S tier. Don't do them in order of name. Choose them at random. Well, I'm going to do them in order of name in terms of timestamps for videos. He's a high B. He's a high B. Alright, moving on from Harrow to Hildryn. Hildryn is... Balefires are slow. They're good. They're just alright. Pillage is one of the best abilities in the entire game, which heavily carries her. This ability doesn't really have much of a use besides for Blazing Pillage, and this is one of the worst abilities in the entire game. So, she is really hard carried by the fact that Pillage is really, really strong, and you can make some edge case uses of Balefire. Is it a bad thing you have to be solo to be effective? No, it's not, but it's that Harrow's kit is also built around being a support. Are we going by alphabetical order? Yes, we're going by alphabetical order. Like, Hildryn's a really, really great support frame with Haven and with something like the ability that grants everyone energy. I mean, other than the fact that Aegis Storm is just absolutely god awful. I think Hildryn gets... There's really not much to say about her because she doesn't do much besides Pillage. You won't notice this ability doing on anything. Like, doing anything. You don't want to use this in general, and using Balefire over just a weapon is just not smart. So, I think she gets C. Pillage is really, really good, but it's so much better on every other frame, and she is a... I know that she just got her prime, but to get Pillage subsumed, you need to get her base, and her base is a bitch to farm for a lot of people. So, the Blaze Augment is fun in Steel Path. I have a video using it that is very effective. It's just, that is like the one build she has. Alright, next up. We got Hydroid. Eh. I don't really know if I need to talk about this one, y'all. Alright, so next up we have Inaros. And Inaros is a Inaros is an interesting frame because Inaros is literally just if you just took health and then you said, alright, so we gave him a shit ton of health. What else do we want to do on him? And then someone just had their child come up with what they thought would be cool, and they made them into abilities. You've got throw some dirt at the enemy. You've got soul suck one of them. You've got what is essentially, literally, Caliban's 1, except it's a 3. And you've got whatever the fuck this is. And you know what? S tier, baby. No, but if I'm actually being honest, both of these frames are so terrible. Wait, no. They deserve to go down here. Nah, Inaros goes D. You know why Inaros goes D? Because Hydroid goes on the Steel Path, doesn't do anything, and dies. Inaros goes on the Steel Path and doesn't do anything, but doesn't die. And that's better than doing nothing and dying. So D tier. Both of them fucking suck, though. Both of them are terrible. Inaros is good for newer players. Revenant. Alright. Ivara. Ivara is interesting because she is like the spy frame, yet she's also not a good spy frame because she's so slow. Quiver. Really cool. 2 of its arrows are just not useful though. Dash wire's cool. And then cloak is useful. Noise arrow, no. Sleep arrow, no. Navigator's actually got some really like funny memes that you can do. So this at least has some use. Even if it's just like, eh. Prowl is alright. And yeah, I mean, you get headshot damage. And there are some use cases where it's like, oh, you can use this to one-shot Archons and stuff like that. But that extra damage is one of those situations where it's just not needed for both open, the extra damage is just not needed for general enemies nor bosses, because there are other, like, much better helmets. Sleep Arrow. Oh, you know what? Sleep Arrow is really good for open worlds. I didn't think about that. But Equinox with Rest does the same thing, much easier. Archon hunting, just use Revenant. So much easier and faster. Now, Artemis Bow with the augment is actually really strong. And it does do a lot of damage. So, I'll give it that. I just think she's fine. She's not particularly amazing. She's a B. 4th frame in A. That's Gyre. Oh, A+. That's Grendel. Okay. Next up, we come to Khora. Now, Khora is a frame that I have a lot of playtime on. And to preface, Khora is going to be the first S of tonight. Why is Khora the first S tier frame for tonight? Because Khora makes playing other frames a less optimal experience. And I know that optimizing the hell out of everything is not how some people like to play. There is a certain fun factor that comes in here, and personally, I find Khora to be very fun because there is not a lot of things that you can do, like spamming Whip Claw and hitting huge red crit numbers, but Khora can one-shot pretty much every enemy. She can one-shot Acolytes. When moving to a slash build, she scales up to level cap. And Snare is probably the best grouping in the entire game. Bias? I mean, why should she be lower? You can give me an argument. I have Core Prime, but I don't have any idea how to use her. Watch my video on her. Venari sucks, but it is a fantastic helmet ability slot for things that she really likes. Like, what is it called? Lycas Hunt, which allows her to be invincible, shield gating in a single cast of Whip Claw. Strangle Dome, great CC, but it gives extra loot. And that is what puts her into S tier. She can one-shot Acolytes. She can one-shot almost every enemy in the entire game. And she gets extra loot while doing it. And you just press 1 and delete anything you're looking at. She's like, when I talk about making, if you're gonna go chill in survival, there is not a reason to play a frame that is not Khora. Seriously. No survivability. 1, and Snare. And 2, have you seen my video on her using Lycas Hunt, where you can shield gate in a single cast of Whip Claw, so you have invincibility at any level? Just spamming Lycas and shield gating with no trying is just boring after a while. Yes, like I said, there is a level of enjoyability that goes into it, and I completely argue that, but she makes playing other frames obsolete. Stationary frame, not with Lycas, no. Actually, with Lycas, she becomes one of the best sprint through an entire mission and just kill everything. I think that she's S tier because she makes playing other frames not worth playing. She's that strong. So Khora is going to be the first S. Shield gating A. What's wrong with shield gating? Still prefer Nekros as the loot frame. And I like, there are obviously preferences, but when it comes down to it, there is like, her helmet is boring though. Give her some good design. Her helmet is boring, and Snare is one of the best abilities in the entire game. Doesn't matter if you find it boring or not. Octavia should be S tier as well. She will be S tier because she's stupidly OP. Okay, Lavos. So Lavos is Lavos is hindered by being really, really difficult. Lavos is really tough to play, stuck behind an annoying grind, and while actually good, as in catalyze with the augment and stuff, can do some pretty impressive damage, is just generally, one, I would say, too confusing for the average Warframe player, and also could really, really use some quality of life stuff. As in, if I hold to imbue all of my abilities with Toxin, it should stay as that until I change it. Better with higher enemy density? Yes. I think Lavos is really cool conceptually, not using energy, having cooldowns and stuff like that, and with the augment and, reducing cooldowns with the transmutation probe. Just cool, awesome stuff. Like, really cool stuff. But when I look at this, am I like, okay, Lavos is a better, like, because Lavos doesn't, like, do anything special. He's just really cool conceptually, and that's an odd bug. So, Lavos gets a B. Said it's only going to be 3 S tiers, so we know Octavia, last should be Mesa, Protea. Mesa, Protea, I mean, I just said 3 S tiers relatively. He's too hectic? Yeah. Okay, so, Limbo. Do I have my Limbo Prime leveled? Nah, I literally have him too. Limbo Prime is just a big I can't really. Limbo's a difficult one to come up with ways on how I would fix him, because I actually think he does what he does really, really well. But his abilities are just not, like, not suited to the current meta. And it's purely because of Eximus. Eximus units just make him, like, you know, if you're playing Limbo and you see an Eximus, you just fucking shit your pants because he doesn't really have any way of dealing with them besides just shooting them. So, great box breaker. Zaku exists for that. And then, like, Banish is cool, I guess. Stasis is Like, there are some really, really, like, funny meme builds with the Rift Surge augment. But, yeah, it's C tier, though. Just C tier. Alright. Who do we have next? Loki. Loki is another difficult one, man. Oh, where's Loki Prime? Okay. Let's talk Loki. We have Decoy. Alright. Wow. What a terrible ability. Decoy might be in contention for the worst ability in the entire game. Invisibility. Literally the only reason to possibly play him. And this is literally like just playing a frame that like you won't die while invisibility's active, but it doesn't do much. Switch teleport. Oh my fucking god. What is the point of this ability? And then radial disarm? Like, what is this? What is this really meant to do? Okay, so you make all enemies not be able to shoot their weapons, but you should be invisible 100% of the time while playing Loki. So weapons or not, it doesn't matter because they shouldn't be able to see you. And then being able to hang from walls for 10 times longer than normal is just such a nasty passive. I might need to just throw him an S tier. But, like, full honesty, Loki is just not good. In the same boat as Inaros. Inaros doesn't do anything on the steel path, but he doesn't die. Loki doesn't do anything, but he won't die. So I guess that's what he has going for him. He won't die, but unlike any of the frames above him, they actually do something with their abilities. They just, like, need reworks to some of them. Alright, next up, though, we have an actually good frame, which is nice, with Mag. Mag is ridiculously strong. Mag is super strong. Pull, after the changes it got, is a fantastic ability. And then Magnetize is just, whoo! Oh my god. You just kill anything with this. Clarify some stuff. Why is Caliban there? Because Caliban's 1, 2, and 3 are not great, and only his 4 is good, but it's slow. Find him to be worse than these frames. Why is Equinox so low? A? I don't think that that's low. She's just not better than these frames. But no, Mag is nasty. Polarize is typically what people helmet off of her, if not her pull. And then Crush with the augment, with the armor strip, is just damn. Mag is stupid strong. And this is a dumb passive because of vacuum. But regardless, a lot of Warframes have terrible passives. Mag is just a monster at killing things. I would just say, though, that she's a little bit slower than some other nuke frames, but she's got some really, really high damage potential. Some of the highest damage potential in the entire game. Magnetize plus the Tenet Archoplasmor is nasty. So, I believe that Mag is a solid... I think she's A. An argument could be made for A+. An argument that I'm actually going to agree with. I think that Mag is an A+ Warframe. Yeah, Mag is an A+. Thinking about it, Mag's an A+ for sure. I think she sits on the same level as all these other frames purely because she has built-in shield gating with Polarize. She has some of the craziest damage potential with Magnetize. Pull is a fantastic grouping ability, and she has Armor Strip on Crush. Mag's an A+. She is very, very strong. Very strong. After Mag, we have a fan favorite. Mesa. Mesa is also super, super good. Her 1 is terrible, but that means that it's a great helmet slot. What is the best helmet ability on her? Pillage. Pillage is probably the best Mesa helmet, and I love it on her. Mesa is useless in arbitration. What? That doesn't make any sense. Shooting Gallery. Unfortunately, most people build Mesa and kind of gimp out on range. Her 4 doesn't work on drones. Okay, well that's kind of annoying. But with a lot of range, Shooting Gallery is one of the best crowd control abilities in the entire game. So, definitely, what about Nourish on her? It's alright, not doing anything special on Mesa in particular, though. It's just, putting Nourish on Mesa is sort of like just putting Nourish on her for viral damage and like the viral priming, but it doesn't have any special synergies. Shatter Shield is 95% DR. 95% DR is an uncommon thing to find, especially on a single ability. And Shatter Shield is just, it's just good. And then, of course, there's the entire reason that most people play Mesa in the first place, which is Peacemakers. Peacemakers are nasty. They have a scaling problem where they don't really work into higher levels, which is why Pillage is probably the best helmet for her, because it solves all issues she has, gives you Armor Strip, gives you Status Cleanse, gives you Shield Gate. Run that with Adaptation, stacked with the 95% DR that you get from Shatter Shield, and you barely need to cast it. And, bro, she is very, very good. Good enough that she's... yeah, Mesa's an A+ Warframe. Alright, next up we have Mirage. Okay, so Mirage is actually really good at multiple things, although I'm actually slightly unsure on one of them. I know the DE essentially made a bunch of nerfs to Sleight of Hand for ESO nuking with the recent patches they did. Is she still good at it? Because a lot of people were saying that they kind of just nerfed the hell out of her in ESO. So let me know, is she still good at it? Because everyone was making a big deal off of it. Hall of Mirrors, crazy damage potential. Eclipse, one of the best helmets in the entire game for just damage, and also really good on her because it doesn't get any reduced bonuses. Even though the DR is like Eclipse, honestly, just the way that it works with light is so annoying. Just so annoying. So I'd be fine if they just made it to give you both bonuses at once, but I know that if they made it so that frames could get damage reduction and damage bonuses from just one ability, that might be broken, especially because you could, like, if you put Eclipse onto a frame like Baruuk with all of his DR, he'd probably just become purely invincible, but regardless, very, very annoying. Prism is really slow to cast, but it's actually really strong. Like, this ability does a shit ton of damage. Like, it does so much damage. Sometimes I kind of forget, and then it just, like, I just cast it and everything just dies. But mainly you use Mirage for Hall of Mirrors and Eclipse, and then this for, like, ESO nuking. And for that, Prism Augment. Yeah, the Prism Augment is actually very good. Some stupid stuff. I'm kind of indecisive on exactly where I want to put her. Because Eclipse is her helmet ability, and I just, What do you guys think? Is she an A or an A+? I'm thinking A. She doesn't necessarily excel at anything except just dealing stupid amounts of damage. Damage that is honestly unnecessary, though, because just modding weapons correctly, you do enough compared to the ones in A+. Yeah. I think she's A. Can't put her in front of Baruuk. Oh, whatever. I think she's A. I think she's a very high A. I just personally believe that comparing her to the likes of Gara, infinite damage stacking, just Garuda, purely because of how the infinite damage nuke she has on her 1, her 3, infinite energy, and her 4 being one of the most OP abilities in the game. Gauss being Gauss, infinite armor strip. I have Khora and S. And then Mesa is just fantastic for literally anything. Alright. Next up we have Nekros. So, Nekros is one of my favorite frames, and he's got access to Terrify without needing to helmet it, of course, because it is just his ability. And Terrify is one of the best armor strips in the entire game, so just having it and being able to combo it with something is very strong. Soul Punch is really only useful for cherry picking what enemies you want to have in your as your Souls of the Dead or Shadows. And then obviously there comes in the looting part. I think that Nekros is in a very, very good spot. He can get extra loot. He can kill pretty much anything because Terrify's armor strip is so strong. The Shadows are very, very powerful when set up with the right companion buffing build, and also good for Nekros' own survivability because of the DR. And throwing something like Gloom on his 1 is just really strong. Obviously, also, of course, his augment is just, like, very, very powerful. So, the thing about Nekros, though, is that Nourish still works for Shadows. Yeah, so Nourish paired with the Theorem and Demolscent, I think it is, Arcanes. Just Terrify, remove Overguard if X-Mist. No, but it does remove their armor through the Overguard. Comparing Nekros to Khora, I find Nekros is weaker than Khora. So he's just going to go as a high A. Because extra loot in a looting game like Warframe cannot be understated how powerful that is. So I think he's an easy A. An easy A+. Next up, we have Nezha. If I were to talk about him in region chat, I would get instantly banned. Nezha is good. Warding Halo's very, very strong. Firewalker is good. Blazing Chakram is good. Divine Spears wants different stats than the rest of his kit does. So typically it's his helmet, but it's a good ability nonetheless in terms of just crowd control. And also some really, really funny builds with Blazing Chakram. Nezha is just better Rhino. Yeah, Nezha's the more modern version of Rhino. Requires less micromanagement in terms of Rhino really, really needs like a lot of things to get stupid high Iron Skin numbers. Nezha you just cast. So, but I also don't, personally, I don't like playing Nezha. The Chakram is, like, it's good. It gives enemies a damage vulnerability. It's not, like, super massive. So I find Nezha to be just a really, just a really solid tank. Firewalker with status immunity is nice, and the extra speed is cool. His passive is really, really annoying, though. Really hate the passive. And then, yeah, I mean, just Warding Halo kind of carries him. He's just a really, really solid tank. So he gets A. He's not doing anything special, though. Okay, Nidus. Nidus, the infested Warframe. Before we cover Nidus, I'm actually going to go get myself some more water. Nidus is a really, really good solo frame. And also has some potential for some really, really stupid strength builds with Parasitic Link. But that's very niche. Larva is a good grouping ability. And it is also his helmet. But honestly, I really just find that the best grouping ability in the game is Ensnare. By far. And not using it. Because, like, this doesn't work on Acolytes or anything, so. I think Nidus is in a very good place. There's not much I would change about him. I think he has a very fun playstyle. I think aesthetically he's very good. I think he's fun to play, too. In terms of, like, raw strength, though, he's not super high up there, but I also don't know essentially what they could do to make him better, nor do I think he needs to be better. I think Nidus is sitting at a very, very healthy spot, and he's just good. It's like Nezha, honestly. They're good. There's, like, they don't need anything to be done to them in terms of good or bad. So, I also give Nidus just an A. Like, he's sitting in a good spot. Next up, though, we actually have a favorite of mine. Okay, so Nova. Nova is a very, very, very versatile frame. Very versatile. You've got Null Star, which is typically her helmet, because it's damage reduction, but only for your health. Antimatter Drop is so very commonly overlooked when this is one of the best nuke abilities in the whole game. Like, seriously. For some reason, this ability's damage absorption does scale off of strength for some reason, even though it's not reflected in game. And then there's Wormhole. Amazing, amazing movement ability. Molecular Prime. Basically the basis of her whole kit. You've got Slova, you've got Speedva, you've got just pure being able to just kill things because they take 100% more damage. Nova is very, very, very strong. She can do so much. Her prime and her base skin are ugly as fuck. Luckily, she's got some really, really nice skins. She can nuke very well. She can do health tank builds with Null Star. She can move really, really fast. Nova is really, really great. Personally, I believe that Nova deserves an A tier, okay? But Nova's going to get Nova's going to get A+ tier following the same principles that I established earlier. If a frame is just really, really good at a few things, like really, really good at them, and in Nova's case, this is making missions go faster. They get bumped up a tier purely because if you want to play defense and get over with it as quick as possible, you should play Nova. What helmet would you put on her? I think that she's a very helmet neutral, as in you could kind of use anything on her. Typical damage buff would work. Run something more specialized like an armor strip. She's very strong. Next up, we have a much less strong frame of Nyx. Nyx. Unfortunately, Nyx is not nearly as good. Really, mind control is just Psychic Bolts is a really, really easy full strip that only affects, like, what, 6 enemies at max, which is just not enough for Steel Path content. All those compliments, still not S. Yeah, I don't think playing Nova makes, like, it a bad idea to play other frames. Like, you should choose Nova over other frames. But, again, Chaos is a really, really great crowd control ability, and honestly, the only one that she has that I am actively like, this is good. Absorb is, it's like mid with Assimilate. But Psychic Bolts is just so slow. Just so slow. I don't know why people rave about this ability. It's literally only 6 enemies out of the 40 you'll be looking at on Steel Path. And you don't even need Armor Strip for most Steel Path content if you're not using abilities to kill. She's just... her 1, 2, and 4 are just all, like, meh. Like, I know that this can Armor Strip anything, but... ugh. Psychic Bolts is great for Liches. Yes, that's true. But I don't think that it's good enough to propel her any higher than C tier. I think I do believe that Chaos, like, you can survive with Nyx on Steel Path with just Chaos. You can. And then a good grouping helmet or like a better armor strip or something will work, and it makes her work on Steel Path. But she needs a rework. Same as all the other frames C and below do. Next up we have Oberon, who unfortunately we haven't covered the frame that makes Oberon not useful, but where's Oberon Prime? Oberon, okay. Smite. This ability just doesn't really do much on higher levels, mainly used for the radiation damage that it gives for Eidolon hunting. And for that, you know what? It's decent. It's not terrible. The ability itself, not even counting the augment, is fine. Like, it's just okay. Hollowed Ground, like, okay, like, really not doing much here. Renewal does a lot for one ability and is actually really good. Enough said. Renewal is pretty good, but made completely irrelevant by the frame that will be in S tier. And Reckoning, just like the fact that the way that Reckoning's armor strip, this ability still armor strips in a very weird way, right? In a very weird way, right? Doesn't it require enemies to be on hallowed ground to work? Yeah, Reckoning just doesn't do much either. Which is unfortunate because I really would like Oberon to be good. I think that with some numbers changes, he could be really good. Actually, I don't honestly, I don't know. I think that the pure existence of you makes him just not worth it. But regardless. Next up, oh wait, I need to rank him. Oberon. I think Oberon gets a D in a higher place than both Inaros and Loki are. Because Inaros and Loki, consider them D minuses. I just don't want to clutter the tier list. Caliban and Oberon can do something with their abilities on Steel Path. It's just not good. It's just really not good. And you know, relative to someone like Atlas and Hildryn, like these frames you can make work. Oberon just really, really just needs some changes. All right, this is a very easy S tier. Octavia is so powerful, yet universally recognized as probably the most boring frame in the entire game. For good reason. She is OP as hell, yet is barely played because she's so boring. Which is crazy to say for a frame that you can literally make play any song you want and have it kill enemies. But there is literally a point in this game where you are so good that you are just not fun to play. And that's Octavia. There's not much really to be said about her. Like, everyone who dabbles in Steel Path knows that Octavia is so strong and knows why everyone doesn't play her, because she's just boring. So, yeah, that's Octavia. S tier. Next up, though, we actually have a very, very strong frame in Protea. Now, Protea is very, very, very good. 100% ability strength on 4th power cast. Instant shield gate. Blaze artillery. Oh. Holy. Dispensary. And this dog shit ability that is a fantastic helmet slot, so we don't really care. These three abilities are so powerful. Especially Blaze Artillery when you use a grouping ability here. Oh my god, it's just ridiculous. It is just absolutely insane. Yeah, it makes Vauban obsolete. Protea is a support. Protea is a support that also has top 3 damage in the entire game because of how Blaze Artillery scales. The difficulty with rating her is that technically she has better damage than a frame like Khora, but Khora doesn't, like, Protea doesn't have something like extra loot. And Octavia is just Octavia. So I don't really know if I want to put her 4th is good. The fuck you talking about? Protea's 4th is not good and also her best helmet slot. Yeah, that's just not true. Personally, I just don't believe that she sits on the level of... She's easily the best frame in all of A tier. If I could do an A++, she would be there. But the way that Like, if someone was like, oh, you're not playing Protea and you were playing Gauss, there would be no difference. Like, there's no difference. It's just that she, like, technically scales better, but even then, someone like Gauss can just mass armor strip and kill everything at any level. Same with Grendel, same with Mag. Technically, Mesa doesn't scale as well as some of these frames, but she is great at so much. Same with Nova. What would be best assumed for her for? A grouping ability, by far. Roar also works if you don't want to group, but grouping ability. Anyways, moving on. We have the next S tier frame, which is Revenant. Why is Revenant S tier? Because Revenant cannot die. Revenant can also one-shot any enemy in the entire game with Reeve, Enthrall, and Roar, and Viral. Yeah. So, you know. The Revenant is the quintessential you don't want to try. And that is what makes him S. He trivializes playing any of these other frames because they cannot one-shot level 999 enemies while also not dying. But it is also his biggest fault because Revenant, to me, is so boring. And if I didn't mention, his fourth is terrible. So it's his helmet slot. Which is fine, because we're in a meta where helmet abilities should be used in every frame, so having an ability that is objectively worse than the others makes it really easy to decide which one to take off. Mesmer hasn't been nerfed. Mesmer got an augment that allows you to give it to teammates. Revenant is just Jesus. He's so powerful, but it is also his biggest detriment because it makes him so boring to play to me. He's so boring. He just doesn't die. Like, you don't need to try. There's no trying, which I don't like. But so strong, so powerful. Easy S. Now, a frame that really wants to be Revenant, but unfortunately doesn't, is Rhino. So, Rhino, unfortunately, Rhino Charge, besides with the augment for building stupid Iron Skin numbers, not great. Iron Skin is literally just Mesmer Skin, except not as good. I got bored playing Warframe for a while after getting Revenant Prime. That's what he does, which is not good, but it doesn't change how powerful he is. Iron Skin just gives you a shit ton of ferrite armor, especially when you stack it with all these other bonuses. Roar is just one of... Roar is, in my opinion, the best damage buff helmet because it's, one, a faction damage multiplier, which are not common, and then also it's always active at its max bonus, unlike Eclipse, and it just works for everything, unlike Zada's Whisper, which is very niche in what weapons it's super good on. Roar is really, really great. Rhino Stomp, Normally you subsume this off because you're normally using the augment to build up some stupid Iron Skin numbers. And that is just... That passive is literally a mod. Rhino has fallen off so hard because, one, Nezha and Revenant exist, which actually just puts Rhino into C tier. He's not doing anything special because Roar is his helmet. Next up, we've got Citrine, and... Woo! Citrine is very good, going firmly into A tier. Not S tier. Not S tier, because she doesn't make other frames a bad idea to play, because my Equinox Terrify build is a better nuke than Citrine. Doesn't deny how powerful she is, though. Absolutely crazy damage scaling with Toxic Lash and how it works with modding on weapons. She's A+. She's a very high A+, on par with Protea. But yeah, she's fantastic. Dang man, why Hildryn so low? Because her 1, 3, and 4 are just meh, hard carried by pillage. Yeah, Spores, Armor Strip, and infinite damage. Miasma, typically her helmet, but still good nonetheless for low-level nuking. Toxic Clash, one of the best damage buff abilities in the entire game. Molt, fantastic shield gate tool. Saren, super strong. Fortunately, the next frame, beginning with an S. Sevagoth. Sevagoth is, unfortunately, not very good. Sitting... I actually don't know if he's C or D tier. Because Sevagoth has one of the best helmet abilities in the game, but it's not good on him. And relative to these other frames, I would actually put Sevagoth lower. Sevagoth is really fun, though. Sevagoth just doesn't really do anything. Yeah. Like, Gloom is so strong, but it's a helmet ability, and it doesn't get reduced when you helmet it. So, like, it just... Reap and Sow are like, they're really only made to fill this. And Exalted Shadow is just not, like, completely worth playing this frame for. Gloom is just so strong. Which might be the only reason he's not F tier. And also the stupid amount of forma this guy requires. So yeah, unfortunately, D tier. At least he looks cool. And he has a dope-ass quest. Call of the Tempestari is one of my favorite quests. Next up, we have Styanax. Now, Styanax is a good frame. Easy A tier. Styanax has access to one of the best armor strips in Tharos Strike. Good grouping through Axios. Rally Point is great, and Final Stand is good. They just nerfed him so much from when he came out. Pre-nerf Styanax would arguably be either low A+ or really high A tier. But DE just hated this man. They just hated him. Styanax is an annoying farm. That is true. Most people just got him for free, though. But yeah, for people who like only came back after that promotion ended, Styanax is better than Hildryn. 1000%. Thank you, Bannon. I appreciate it, man. He's just good. This is a cool passive. Not that spear guns are very useful, but like, you know. He's a good frame. You guys think Styanax is worse than Hildryn? $175 plat to straight up buy. Interesting. Next up, we have Titania. Titania gets thoughts on Garuda. Well, she's up here in A+, so she's very good. Titania gets A+, because she is the best relic runner in the game. And, I mean, besides that, the Dex Pixia and Razorwing are good. They're just slow. Best frame for Circuit. That's debatable. Spellbind is this ability what is it? The Full Moon, not useful. And then what is it? Thorns is alright. It's just these are all meh. She's an A+ because she's a great relic runner, and she can output a shit ton of damage. She just like doesn't kill very fast, or she kills fast. She just doesn't like kill mass groups. Void Flood, and Void Flood. She is by far the only frame that can play Void Flood and not trigger me. So, Thermal Thunder Titania. Thermal Thunder Titania is very, very powerful. It's just for, like, you know, Steel Pass stuff, you need to cast that shit a lot for it to actually kill. She gets A+, though. Easy A+. Trinity. Unfortunately, Trinity is another support frame that is just not that great with C tier. What Trinity does do is give you Well of Life, which is immunity to status effects and health regen. You get Energy Vampire, which is actually not bad. Link, this ability's stupid, and Blessing. The only reason that I would really say Trinity has a use is for Eidolon hunting. But even then, she's not necessary for it. Head stomped into dirt because of Wisp, that is exactly what, yeah. Like, she's just a support frame that is not nearly as good as, honestly, without the existence of Wisp, she becomes a B. But because of the existence of Wisp, she becomes a C. And that's only because she's not worse than these frames. Because she at least does something. Like, she at least does something that's noticeable. Next up, we have Valkyr. Valkyr's a B. She has one really, really good ability, which is Warcry. This ability is fantastic, but it is her helmet, so every frame can get this. And then Hysteria is gimped by its stance. Hysteria's stance is so god-awful, and it makes me so sad, because the only legitimate way you can play her and actually not want to claw your eyes out, haha, is by slide attack spamming, which is so boring. Like, sure, you can run her with Nourish over Paralysis, because this ability is one of the worst in the game, and this is just, like, why? But she's a B because she can actually do some damage, and Warcry is very good, and I believe, I believe her to be better than, actually, do I? Now that I'm looking at this. Nah, actually. Bad rating. See, yeah, she's a C. She's a C. 2 of her abilities fucking suck. And she doesn't, her Hysteria is only, yeah. Garuda is better overall. In terms of using claws for attacks, yes. And also, because you can just put Hysteria, or you can just put Warcry onto Garuda. Yeah. Valkyr is, she's just eh. It's just a big eh. What a crazy passive that is. I think Valkyr Prime is one of the coolest looking frames. Especially with the Rapala signed on him. Is Revenant good? He's an S tier frame. Who's better, Revenant or Khora? I say Khora because extra loot, but, you know. Oh, Vauban. Vauban. I think Vauban also gets a C. And the reason Vauban was only useful in ESO. True, his ability to group up with Vortex is actually very useful. He's good at level cap. I'll be 100%. I'm not super educated on Vauban, so none of these are really that good though, right? Besides for Fleshed Orbs. And I know Tesla Nervous with the augment can actually be pretty decent. 3 reworks and still need a rework? Yeah, kind of right. I feel comfortable putting him at a C. Alright, now here comes a very, very difficult one. We have Vault. Now, Vault is a fantastic frame. Vault is the best frame for Eidolon hunts. And he's very, very good for speed running. But in terms of getting through missions fast, I think one, Titania is better for those. It's just that Vault is a monster for bosses. But the thing is that I don't think Vault like makes other frames obsolete. Like you can still do all of those other things on other frames. He's just fast at it, but not fast enough to the point where it's like, holy shit, you need to be. I just give Vault a very high A+. I think he's a super, super versatile frame, and it's just good. Like, he's just very good. Where is he? Shock with the augment. Yeah, by itself, not really that great. Speed running. Do I play Warframe in full screen? Yeah, that's why I'm getting those blacks. I should change it, sorry. Electric Shield after the changes is not terrible, and Discharge is a very, very good nuke when paired up with Terrify. Next up, we have Varuna. I give Varuna an A. She has some crazy, crazy nuking potential with the way that she can, like, slash taxi, which is a very, very interesting mechanic, unique to her, I think. And she has a very, very cool passive. Well, her passives. No tier list is correct. Tier lists are purely subjective. Half the reason that a video like this that I'm doing right now does well is because people click on it and see that I didn't rate their frame where they want it to be and get mad about it. That's tier list in a nutshell. They generate controversy, which generates views. So, yeah, I'm not when I make this list, I'm not looking to be like, oh, you think that Ashe should be in S tier? Well, I'm gonna move him to S tier. I genuinely just think Ashe is a B tier frame. People who disagree with me are gonna go on to my YouTube video and they're gonna comment, you would think Ashe is a B tier frame? You're absolutely out of your mind. How could you do that? Blah! And then that's a comment. I'll take it. Drive the engagement on my video, bruh. Tier, let's put Limbo and Mirage in the same tier. Yeah, like I can see a bunch of people saying that I'm stupid for putting Mirage in A tier or not in A+ tier. I don't think Mirage is that good. All she does is make things kill quicker in a meta where we don't need things to kill quicker. So, you know. Varuna, though, very, very good. Ulfrin's Descent, after the changes, not awful. But she really shines in her first 3 abilities. She gets an A tier. 4th S tier, Wisp. What does Wisp do? She makes every other support frame not worth playing, which again is the qualifications for being an S tier frame. You need to make it so that using other frames is not optimal, and that's what Wisp does. Because reservoirs, like just reservoirs, it's, yeah, like seriously. Breach Surge, what a broken ability on her and on every other frame. She has a terrible ability in Soulgate, but it's a good thing because every frame uses a helmet ability, so having one ability that is objectively worse than all the other ones is a good thing, because it means you don't need to decide which one to take off. So, yeah, now, Wisp is, everybody knows that she's an S tier. And her passive is crazy, too. Floating between dimensions, she becomes invisible. What does that even mean? insane. Will-O-Wisp is underrated. It is underrated, but it's I make use of it. It's very strong. We come to Wukong. Now, some people might go crazy at me for this. You need to understand, I don't think Wukong is good, besides for the fact that he is probably he does exactly what I say S tier frames do. Make other frames obsolete. There is zero reason to use any frame besides Wukong for spy. There's zero reason to use any frame besides Wukong for rescues and captures. He, with Molt on his 4th and Cloudwalker, is so fast and doesn't get detected, cannot die unless you're an idiot and die multiple times. It is just Molt and Cloudwalker that make him so powerful. He makes other frames not worth using because he does those missions so fast. Wukong is boring. He's boring as hell. He's boring as hell. Titania is amazing for captures. Yes, Titania is really great for captures. But I'm also bleeding into the whole Wukong is by far the best spy frame. Like, by far the best spy frame. He's the upgrade to Excal. I believe that Wukong's speed at running those missions is what puts him into S. I know this is going to make a lot of people mad. Understand that I don't think Wukong himself is actually good in terms of, like, doing anything besides speedrunning stuff. I think besides that, he's not good. We come to Zaku next. And I don't know, y'all. Zaku's one of, like, the only frames in the game that can straight up just go AFK. And based on what I like playing and stuff, putting Wukong above Sarah and Protea sounds very wrong to me. Listen to what I said. He is not better than any of these frames down to B tier, but he, like I said, makes other frames not worth playing for speedruns. He's the only boss killer frame. There are tons of frames that can kill bosses. I believe tier some more experienced players done with this deception. Alright. Stay mad, bro. Stay mad. I knew that this would be objective, but like I said, he's not better than these frames in terms of actually, like, killing stuff, but he speedruns so much better than them. I could take a Hydroid boss killer frame? Yeah. Zaku? I really would like to put Zaku into S tier. I mean, think about it. Think about it. Zada's Whisper, while typically their helmet ability typically their helmet is Zada's, ridiculously strong for the Incarnate weapons. Grasp of Lock is why he can just go AFK and also scales with enemy level. So, you know, that's really strong. Just massive gaze armor strip. And you get 2 of them. And then, you know, infinite duration on abilities. Zaku is very, very strong. I think I personally can see an argument being made for both A+ and S. You get 3 of the armor strip? I thought it was only 2. I'm just having a hard time ranking them here because I'm putting Zaku in A+, purely because they don't invalidate playing any other frames, because while you can go AFK with them, that's not something that you should be aiming to do. Like, that's not actually playing the game. So, Chroma makes other frames obsolete for PT because his credit below therefore he's S tier. You can 100% make an argument that Chroma should be in S tier because he's the best Profit Taker frame. And yeah, that would be reasonable. Terrifying Zaku third or first. For like speed runs of like through exterminates, yeah, but honestly Gaze is much better. That is a valid argument, and again, a reason that I would give for not putting him up there is purely because the rest of his abilities are absolutely terrible besides for one line of stuff on one ability, while the 5 frames that are up here have good abilities. Whether or not you choose to agree with the reasoning that I just made is completely up to you, but that's what it is. Ureli is actually not that terrible, especially with secondaries like the Lex Incarnon. She's just janky to use. Like, she's not bad. Yeah, I'd agree with a B. Everyone, like, it is like a community want to dog on Ureli, but she's actually really not that bad. So I think giving her a B is pretty easy. Like, she's doing some pretty crazy stuff with secondaries, but, like, she's not like, yo, holy fuck, you gotta use Ureli. And using a K-Drive is just jank, regardless. Finally, we have Zephyr. Zephyr is an easy A+. Zephyr is probably the easiest A+ of any of these frames. Like, it blows my mind how strong she is. Because Tailwind with the Augment, you can solo Steel Path with 0 mods. You get 0 mods Zephyr, just the Augment, solo Steel Path. Great grouping ability. Turbulence makes her just have Revenant levels of survivability. She has 150% crit chance while in the air. Her Tornadoes might be the most OP ability in the entire game. Who's the first S? Khora? Yeah, it's Khora. Zephyr is so strong. Only reason she's not an S is because, one, you guys would get mad at me if I did that, and also because she actually doesn't make any other frames obsolete. She's just very, very good. Just, like, very good. Good augment for Airburst. Yeah, the augment for Airburst is really good. Trinity got C tier. But, yeah. This is Kai's 2023 Warframe tier list. What do y'all think? Alright, that is the end of the tier list pretty much. There was a little bit more to the live stream, which you can go check out. Just go to the live tab on my channel, and you can see the end where I discuss with some people about some of the issues you may have. But regardless of how you feel about it, make sure you let me know it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this one. Yeah, this was a very long video, above 2 hours. First time I've ever done something like this, but I'll do tier lists going on through the years for however long I do this YouTube thing. But thank you so much for watching. And again, let me know down in the comments how you feel about this one. I'm interested to see how this one will do. But again, I hope this video was informative and helped you, and I will see all of you guys in the next one. Peace!